Hello, and welcome to the very first video in my new channel called Tinker Tips. This is a place for tips and tutorials on electronics projects, things like coding, microcontrollers, 3D printing, soldering, PCB design, the works. I don't want to waste your time talking about it. I just want to start doing it. So let's check out our first project. All right, here we are, our very first project, and it's a Macropad. Macropads are one of my favorite electronics projects because they're very personal. They're very custom. Where do I want to put these buttons? How many buttons do I want? What do I want them to do? Wouldn't it be cool if I had a joystick or a knob or a display here or modes or lights or whatever? I love making these things. I've made a ton of them, and they really speed up my workflow because I'm designing them for myself and the way I work. Now, this one is actually special to me because I'm making it for someone else. It's an assistive device to help someone who struggles with using a laptop and a trackpad, and they have some dexterity or mobility concerns that make it hard to use and be accurate. And I've tried to simplify these human input devices, these HIDs, the keyboard, the mouse, and really break it down into what do they need to do and what other assistive tools can I bring in to make working or using your computer for fun more enjoyable and easier. So, assistive device, here's what we have going on. On the left side, I have an analog joystick, and this is the type that has a switch or a button if you press down on the top. And down on the right here, I've got a rotary encoder. This one's mounted horizontally or sideways, which is probably non-traditional. You may be used to seeing this type of rotary encoder vertical. This has a big old 3D printed knob here with some nice grips, and the intention there is ease of use. This has a switch built into it also, and pressing it from the side here engages that switch or button. And a 2x4 keyboard or matrix keypad. And I've used some chalk style key switches here. They're very low profile, and I've actually offset them into the case a bit. So, it requires less movement to get to the key you want. And when you're pressing this button, you get that nice clicky feedback, which I just love pressing these key switches. So that's what it looks like. Let's talk about what it does. So first thing you'll notice is the analog uh, joystick here is controlling the mouse cursor. And if I press this button down, I get some different speed options. I programmed about 10 different speeds in here, and it'll go faster than you can handle. And if I keep pressing it, I'll actually get back around to some slower speeds. And this, I think, will aid in the accuracy of moving this around. So if I struggle with my dexterity and I need to click and drag or move files around, these slower speeds I think will be easier. So any mouse needs a good left and right mouse button. I'm not going to spend a ton of time showing you how these work because we all know what mouse buttons do. So the first kind of accessibility feature that I built into it is dictation. So I've got a two press system here. One starts the dictation and one ends the dictation. So I'm going to add a little text to this document here so that we can see some of the other features. And I'm going to freestyle maybe the intro to the Great American Novel, and it's going to be awesome. It was the best of times. It was the not so best of times, period. And our hero decided it was time to venture out into the cruel, cruel world, period. But he was untrained, uneducated, and really unfit to attempt what he was going to attempt, period. He was going to be the world's first person to write the world's best novel and doing it all with dictation and no writing skills, period. Okay. Not going to get better, not going to get worse. Could get worse. So, anyways, that is dictation. And so I press this button to start it, I press this button to end it. And so some of the other buttons in the series here are meant to help with dictation. Well, backspace does what you think backspace would do. I can get in here and edit my text. I've got spacebar. A lot of times when you're dictating things, so if I wanted to come in here and replace this cruel, cruel world here. Um, Using the dictation to replace it, horrible. You may end up needing to space it out. It may have dropped it in right on top of another word. So space is there and return in there. Again, this is all different ways to edit text. And I think this dictation did a pretty good job. And you can see that I can go in there and do some basic things like, click, select, delete, add some space, and hit return. And then I've got another feature, which I think is kind of neat. This is a two press also. The first press gives me a press and hold of the left mouse button, and the second press gets me a release of the left mouse button. So let's it's easier to see than explain. So I'm going to press this once, and now I am holding the left mouse button. And when I press it again, did it not work? There we go. And I press it again, and it will release the mouse button. So let me show you that again. I'm going to press and hold the left mouse button, and as I drag my mouse over, it's selecting all of this, and I press it again to release it. So that's a pretty hard task if you're using a mouse. It's hard for me to click and drag something around. This could be used to move files, obviously select text, or who knows what. But it's also very handy to move text around. So here I'm going to take this, I'm pressing and holding my left mouse button, or at least the computer thinks I am, and then I'm pressing it again, and now I've moved that text to the very end. Let's go in there and hit that space bar because I need a space there. Never mind that it's horrible writing, but I can edit my text. So let's see what else we have here. This is a double click of the left mouse button, which does what double click does, but in the world of editing text, that is select a word. And there's lots of reasons you might need to double click, and double click is a little bit harder than a single click, so I built that button in there. So okay, this is a big one here. This is a button, and you see I put LP kind of on this slide here. That lets you know that to engage this, you need to do a long press. So I programmed it to engage when there's a press of more than a second. So I'm going to press this button, hold it for more than a second. It's going to bring up the accessibility shortcuts menu. And then the next buttons, I'm going to go ahead and show you what they are tab, spacebar, and return, which will help me get through that menu. You remember these buttons had another purpose when I wasn't in this mode. So when we get to the coding and how this was made, you're going to see how I kind of switch in and out of those modes. But for now, let's see what it does.
Accessibility shortcuts.
It's going to pop up a menu.
Use the tab key to navigate, and press space to toggle an option. Invert colors, sticky key, slow key, mouse keys, accessibility keyboard, voice control, unchecked.
So I'm going to turn on voice control by now hitting
Checked.
the space bar. And then finally, this button here is hitting return, which ends this menu and actually changes the function of the buttons back to what you would expect them to be. So now I've turned on voice control. Moving my cursor to the end here. And now it is doing dictation. It is doing the voice control version of dictation. Period. So now I could dictate anything I wanted to say, and it's very much like dictation, but voice control is different, period. Select previous word. Delete that. Undo that. Stop listening. All right, so you have to say stop listening and start listening. I'm saying that very quiet because I don't want it to turn back on. But now I'm doing things like dictating text, but it actually helps me edit the text with some voice commands. And also one of the features that I really like is it actually helps you click different things on the screen. So I'm going to turn this back on and I'm going to try to save this document. So let's see how that goes. Start listening. Click 4. Click 5. Click 4. Click 3. Click 2. stop listening. Okay, now I just did a lot with voice control. You can see that's pretty powerful. Didn't use my hands for a while there, and I navigated around the computer. So I pulled up this document to show you some other features, but first I'm gonna go in there and turn voice control off by pressing this button.
Accessibility shortcuts.
All right, so waiting for
Use
that
the
menu to
tab key
pop
to
up.
navigate, and press space to toggle an option.
Menu pops up,
Mouse key. Accessible voice control.
and now I'm
Checked.
going to deselect voice control,
Unchecked.
and now voice control is off. I'm back to kind of how my computer works in a standard configuration. So let's talk about what this encoder knob does. So right now, if I scroll with it, you see that I'm on a very zoomed in document, and you're seeing that it's scrolling up and down, kind of like scrolling with your mouse wheel. And if I press the side button in, now it is scrolling left to right, which could be handy when you're trying to navigate through an email or some kind of document, or you're zoomed in like this and you need to see more of the page. So that's what this encoder knob is. So I imagine someone using this to chat with someone in a chat space and scroll through your chats, scroll through the people you're trying to find and clicking on them, or reading emails, replying, dictating your reply and sending that off. So really trying to give some features to someone to really work and get through their things, editing text, capturing text, navigating the computer. Okay, so there you have it, our first project. Now in future videos, I'm going to show you how this was made, step by step, the design, the coding, the 3D printing, the soldering, the full gamut. But for now, that's just a little teaser. I want to show you how this project works. Now, I understand you're probably not going to make this exact project, but my hope is that each video that covers one subject at a time is a subject that you may need to push your personal electronics projects that little step further, to add some features, to learn some best practices. So thank you for joining me on my first video. Keep a lookout for videos that are coming up as we go through this project and really get into the nuts and bolts. Please make some comments. Let me know if you like this idea. Let me know if you have some better ideas, or if you know anyone that might benefit from a device like this. I'll make it for them. I'm always looking for projects. So thanks for sticking with me, and thanks for coming back to watch my future videos.